Good morning, good morning. It is March the 13th. It is Monday morning about 1:17, and obviously I'm still awake. Well, anyway, here we go. I was watching a video today and it made me think. It was of a 65-year-old gentleman who was going a little fast down the highway. Well, this officer decided that he was there today to do speed checks. So he happened to pull in behind this guy, turned on his lights. The gentleman turned on his turn signal, and instead of pulling on the very short shoulder that there was there, he pulled off into, looked like an abandoned business that had to pull off for his safety and the officer's safety. As the officer came up to this window, he was a state police officer. The gentleman had his window just cracked open, not all the way, just cracked open. And the officer told him what he was there for and who he was and asked for his driver's license registration. Well, as the gentleman's reaching over to get it, he closed up his window and to get that information for the officer. He told the officer he didn't feel comfortable and he was very scared of him. So the officer decided that might be an opportunity to open this 65-year-old gentleman's door. Well, that even scared the gentleman even more. He didn't feel comfortable with him in the first place, so he proceeded to leave. He took off. Now, just think about this. This was just for a speeding ticket. So, you know what happened? The officer goes speeding down the road to capture the guy. Now he's in a high-speed chase because this gentleman is really scared of him. Now he's being chased by a man with a gun. And now he already pulled over. He was getting the officer what he thought he needed. And the officer chose to go one step farther, scaring the gentleman even more. So now he's chasing the guy down the highway. Now the gentleman was only going a few miles over the speed limit. Now he's going a few more miles over the speed limit with an officer chasing him with a gun. Well, the officer decided not to only use his gun, he decided to use his vehicle. And he did that maneuver that they use, where they hit the back end of the car, they spin it around, and if the occupant on the inside's lucky, they just go off into the median. But that wasn't the case with this 65-year-old gentleman. His car flipped. Luckily, he wasn't hurt, or that you could tell he was hurt, because he was outside of his car as the officer pulled up. And he was standing there with his hands up as the officer pulled out his gun, told him to get on the ground. And then he comes over and says, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Well, no, he's not okay. He's already scared of the officer. He's already been hit by the officer in his car. He's already flipped down the road. And he's already outside of his car with his hands up, and the officer pulls a gun on him. So no, he's not okay. The officer proceeds to walk him over to his car, set him on the hood, and say, "Why did you make me do that?" Well, that's kind of like talking to a rapist, and his rapist victim is like saying, "Why did you make me do that?" Asking his rapist victim, "Why do you make me do that? Why did you dress so appealing that you made me rape you? Why did you go speeding down the road that I made the decision that I had to make it even worse than what it was? I already had your driver's license number. Could have pulled you over any other time. Why did I have to chase you down the highway at high speed? Why did I have to hit your car so you went flipping down the road and maybe kill you? Why did I have to pull my gun out on you as you stood there with your hands up and tell you to get down on the ground, just to raise you up again and set you on my car and ask you why you made me do that?" It's kind of a narcissistic mentality. What I say is true, and what you are going to do is whatever I tell you. Guess what? 65-year-old man was going a little faster down the road. Almost lost his life and was almost killed by a police officer over a speeding ticket. The officer there is supposed to be for public safety. That's the whole idea of sitting there waiting on people speeding. Not to put them in more harm. Guess what? Why did the officer have to open the gentleman's door over a speeding ticket? Said the windows were tinted, but obviously they weren't tinted because you could see in the car from the dash cam of the police car. I don't understand. It's all about, this is what I'm going to do to you, and you're just going to deal with it. I'm already afraid of you. I'm going to just have to do what you say. No. There gets to be a point where these officers need to learn again how to investigate when they go to school. Investigate. Don't be the tyrant. Don't be the one who is sitting back there and saying, hey, you're going to do what I say no matter what. It is not, I'm going to say this again, it's not a lawful command unless it has a law falling behind it. Just because you are law enforcement doesn't mean you know everything. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-cop. And I'm not the guy who goes out here and gets in trouble. But when things like that happen, guess what? This gentleman was nice enough to not put you in a situation to where you were going to be standing on the side of the road so close to oncoming traffic that you're going to lose your life as the officer. He was nice enough to find a place and to slow down as he was doing so for your safety as well as his. And you as the officer in that situation made it an unsafe situation. And then you turned around and made it even more safe by creating a high-speed chase. You made it even worse by doing the pit maneuver and making this gentleman wreck his car. Whose pocket is that coming out of? For what? For what? How much would that ticket have been? Normally, an officer doesn't pull you over unless you're 5 over, which is what, $60? By the time court cost comes around, a little over 100. Now you're talking thousands. Gentleman's car's destroyed. What's his insurance going to do? Oh, you were in an accident. No. Read your policies, people. If your vehicle is damaged or stolen by a government agency, your insurance company, no matter if you've got full coverage or what, will not pay for that vehicle. Will not. Now, was that gentleman's rights being disregarded? I believe so. Number one, let's go look at the Fourth Amendment. The right to be safe with your papers and property. Okay? He was in his car. That was his property. Okay? Had no reason to get out. Had no reason to open his door. He was complying with the officer, and the officer created the situation. And the gentleman should have said, why did you do that to me? I already told you I was afraid of you, and you made it even worse. Now, will the gentleman have PTSD? I believe so. And he probably already had it beforehand, because he probably already had a bad interaction with the police. Now, I've had interactions with the police, mainly for traffic violations, some stupid stuff. You know, one of my best stories is, how do you get a parking ticket for a place that doesn't exist because there are no parking signs? Get that. It doesn't exist by the police officer's statement because it has no parking signs. Well, the situation was there was an accident up in front of us, and I was driving a semi. The roads were blocked, and I found out about it before I got there. It was in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania doesn't care nothing about you because I tried everything I could do besides drive clear back to the other side of Pennsylvania from the east side of Indiana. Quite a few miles just to go to try to protect yourself. The only other option is to hire an attorney. And guess what? Found out a long time ago. The attorney's going to cost you as much or more than what the fine is. So what do? You pay the extortionist because writing a letter, making the phone calls, and doing all the things to try to explain yourself, what happened, why you were there, just doesn't matter. Now, I was just waking up when I got a knock on my door. Where I got the ticket was a makeshift. Now think about this. If you was to drive down the road and all of a sudden you got a pull off. A pull off. You know, a lane you could pull off and then you pull back on. Nothing else there. Just on the side of the highway. But it does say no parking. Yeah, I agree. It's a makeshift weigh station to pull semis into to extort them for driving down the highway and doing their job. Taking their time. The driver's time. Because guess what? Most drivers get paid by the mile. If the wheels aren't turning, they're not getting paid. So it's an extortion as soon as they pull into that area. Because most of the time they have to slow down. Whether they're doing anything wrong or not, they still have to go through it. And then they might get pulled over because guess what? Just out of random, you might need to be inspected. We need to check over everything in your truck. We need to climb underneath it on our carts. We need to do all the things that a driver can't do. To find the one thing that maybe you can. But anyway, let's get back to the story. So I pulled up because of this accident. I'm getting ready to wake up and get ready to leave. Started to get dressed. Knock on the door. Officer tells me he's going to give me a parking ticket, wants my information, my registration, my driver's license, all those things. As he walked down the line and got all the things from all the other drivers that were parked there for the same reason. Not because they were tired, not because they couldn't make it someplace else, but because there was an accident in front of them that they knew about because they listened to their CB and knew that the road was blocked. After I got my ticket and drove on down the road, I started counting semis that were parked on the side of the highway. I stopped at the number 200. As I looked up the exit and the get-on ramps that were blocked, as I looked up past them and seen businesses with semis parked in them that couldn't go nowhere, as this officer told me I could make it down to the next truck stop. Officer, a driver only knows what a driver knows, and he can only go as far as his radio will reach. You got your money. You extorted it. And it was the last time I drove to Pennsylvania. I came off the road and I never went back that way again. Cost me over $200 by the time I extended the court case. Tried to get the letter to the people in charge, the magistrate, the prosecutor, whoever. Tried to get it thrown out. And I know there were a lot of other drivers there the same day. But that's my story. I was extorted for an accident that I had no control over, that I pulled over in a safe place so I wouldn't possibly be in another accident or another driver hitting me or another car hitting me or something else. The only other place I could have found it was safe for me, and other drivers chose to do the same. So anyway, just made me think. Officers, if you're watching this, please be aware. Nobody is comfortable when you turn on your red and blues. You might say that a traffic stop is the most safest place to be. It is. And I agree. You're pulling over people on a highway that cars are flying by you. You can be hit. That's why you started the practice of going to the passenger side of vehicles. To me, I'm in my office is in my driver's side. I could be that one guy that said, no, I'm not rolling down that passenger window. No, I'm not opening up that passenger door. My office is over here. I'm not over there. You have no business of getting up and seeing inside my truck. Just my point of view. I understand officer safety, but also put it into perspective. Not everybody is comfortable with your lawful orders. Unless it's got a statute behind it, it doesn't exist. When you're pulling over somebody for speeding down the road, going a few miles over, think about it. Are they doing it because they just went down a hill? Look at where you're positioning yourself. Most of the time, you officers position yourself in a place where either, like a semi, you have to push the fuel pedal a little harder to get up a hill. And when you're going down, you're coasting down most of the time. So you're going to go over the speed limit a little. That's just the facts of how gravity works, how inertia works. This guy was in a little car. The highway wasn't that busy. You know, he got comfortable with the speed. He got comfortable with his surroundings. Who was it that decided that speed limit anyway? I want you to think about another thing. If 25 people are driving down the road at 10 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, are they actually driving illegally? Yeah, I got quiet for a minute. I want you to think about it. Who was it that decided that speed limit was 65 miles an hour in the first place? In our society, as a democracy, the majority counts. If 25 people decided that the speed limit was 75 instead of 65, because it was a nice day, it was dry, it was a nice, comfortable, straight stretch, not very many people were around, then what's the problem? Now, I do have a problem with the guy that's zipping down the road and he's jumping in and out and jumping in and out. Yeah, that's an unsafe driver. But if you got 25 people together and they're driving 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, I'm going to guarantee you're probably not going to have very many accidents. You have accidents where you have multi-vehicles at different speeds. I don't agree with split speed limit with semis and cars. I don't agree with semis being required to stay in the right-hand lanes. Do I have time to go and petition for those things to be changed? No, I think OSHA should be. That's your government agency. So I want you to think about this. Putting drivers at risk of more interactions with what we call four-wheelers, the cars, the pickup trucks, the SUVs, because you're requiring them to stay in the right-hand lanes. Especially when you're going around towns and through towns. Those highways are there. People are getting off the highways and they're getting on the highways. As you're getting on a highway and you're coming with a semi, you're supposed to look and see where you fit in. It's a merge lane. You don't expect for that semi to move over for you. It's not a requirement. Matter of fact, in some states, it's not even legal. But what it does cause is that you don't know what's on the other side of that truck. If you're expecting that truck to move over, just think that vehicle on the other side of them has your grandbabies, has your children, has your mom and dad, has your brothers and sisters, has your aunt and uncles, your cousins, or whoever else might be driving on the highway that day. That semi cannot pull over, and you don't know if they can or can't. So don't expect it. Maybe this is whole thought of highways and byways. Again, let's do this. Let's respect ourselves and others, and let's take responsibility for our own actions. I've lost a job because somebody assumed of what I should do because of their action. Yeah, can I sue that person? No. Because when it comes down to it, they look at it and say it's your fault. But the other guy says, I pulled out in front of you, and I thought you'd go to the other lane. I'm going to get off the road 3 miles on up here. So it's okay with what I did. I didn't look in my mirror after pulling in front of you. I assumed. So I lost my job. Did it do much damage to the other guy's vehicle? Nope. A cut that big on his bumper. I don't know if you put that into perspective. Let's see, if I put that on my nose, tip of my nose to about the top of my eyelids. That's it. But he pulled in front of me. I knew who was in front of me. I looked up and there's another car that had pulled in front of me. And he had excuses. And since I was in a semi, guess what? It's my fault. I've heard stories of people being drunk, being in accidents with semis. Their families go sue the semi driver. Guys had several DWIs. Or DUIs, depending on where you're at. But it didn't matter. The guy hit the semi and it's the semi's fault. Because they're going to go digging and digging and digging. It's not what happened right then. It's what would have happened in the past that created. Well, you know what happened in the past in that situation? Guy drank too much and got in a car. Wasn't me. Story I heard. So again, respect and responsibility. Have a great day. God bless. I'm going to try to get some sleep. Wide awake. Don't know why. Maybe it's because I took some naps today and didn't do much. It's Danny's Thoughts. God bless. Have a great day.